don't be afraid to dream big and don't be afraid to share your ideas, but it's very, very important to keep an open mind and listen to advice and take account of any limitations that might show up during the project proposal or when you share your ideas. Stay open-minded. You might have to deal with tools or resources that you don't have much experience with. Do your research as much as you can. You might end up in an area that's a bit outside of your comfort zone, but that's when you learn great things. My name is Lucian. I work as a digital product manager dealing with automation, AI, pre-press and many other things at Mixam. We're an online print and print-on-demand company. We do a lot of books or multi-page bound type of products, and we work with a lot of creative minds out there in the world, mainly creative minds that need to focus on creativity and not deal too much with technical details. And when it comes to printing, there's a lot of those. So my job is to sort of bridge that gap between creative minds and technical people.
Could you describe your initial vision or maybe major challenge that your company was facing, and what was the situation like that time?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it was a very, very clean transition. 6 years ago, by the time I joined the company, I did my fair share of customer support just to understand the business a bit better. And I know what the main approach was at that time. It was purely emails and calls. They had the same questions, so nothing really changed in those 6 years. The only thing that changed is the contact channel. So as I've said, it was creative minds coming to you with an idea, but not really knowing how to make it happen. And eventually that shift came to live chats. So when we got to live chats, of course the main approach was, well, how we can automate things and make everyone's life easier. You know, customers would get a quicker answer, our support team would deal with the most important cases. And then we had the whole evolution of language models becoming more accessible and more performant. So it was about the time to think how we can leverage that and save everyone some time. And we started small. We experimented with just very small basic RAG chat flows and they worked well. We gained the experience to push us a bit forward, and naturally we had to take the big leap and try to think of a more complex workflow which would bring the real value and touch the main pain point we see with our customers, and that was getting the right product recommendation and the right product specifications for whatever they want to print. Yeah, from there on, it's all history, I suppose.
What kind of challenges you met or kind of limitations you met during that initial experiments phase?
Yeah, of course. I would say a lack of experience, of course, is the main thing. I mean, like everyone else, we didn't know much about language models. None of us had any sort of knowledge of machine learning, neural networks, computer vision, and all these terms. We just thought, hey, well, this is cool. We can probably do some cool things with it. And of course, in the first phase, I would say my expectations might have been a bit unrealistic, but as I gained experience by using these simple, accessible tools, it helped me understand and stay a bit grounded and be aware of the limitations I personally have and my team has, of course. We're great at doing print, we're great at at building tech that can do print. We're not experienced to deal with language models and AI. So eventually we came to a place where we realized, okay, this is as far as our knowledge can get us. This is as much as of a complex workflow we can create. And from here on, we need more specialist help. It's similar to what our clients do. It's easy to print something on your home printer, but if you want better quality, you go to a professional printer to give you that good quality.
That's a really good comparison.
Yeah.
And back in the day when you are thinking about your approach, so did you realize or did you think that software development is different comparing to agentic AI engineering?
Well, at that time, I wasn't fully understanding agentic AI myself, but I did have the feeling that software development is quite different from building agentic AI or even basic, RAG chats workflows, because software developers work with very deterministic projects, and from here on, you work with something that's, unpredictable. And as a developer, it's not a case where you look through code to debug things. There's very often no debugging tools. You don't build them in the traditional way. And although we did have some ideas, and there were some even development tools that were written in the same programming language we use to run our platform, they weren't performant enough to get us this far. So yes, we had to come to the conclusion it's not our core business. We probably won't be good at doing this alone.
Yeah, make absolute sense. And why you decided to work with us. So can you tell more about what kind of crucial factors that led you to choose our company among other companies, and maybe you have something that made us stand out from the crowd and from other companies?
Yeah, I think it was the fact that you were very honest and grounded in the way this project was approached. It's very easy to get a client and say, oh yeah, we can do this, and then in your mind will be, well, I'm not sure we can do it, but we'll figure it out. And of course, we've spoken with such companies, and it's not always easy to see behind that, but hearing the pros and cons and the strong parts and the limitations, probably in the first two chats we had, and they were also aligning with what I was thinking, it pretty much convinced me that yes, well, they know what they're talking about. Also the fact that you already kind of had at least a theoretical plan as to how to approach this, even before we got too technical. It was also a good consideration factor. I think it helps that you keep your clients grounded and you tell them what to expect even from the early stages. It's very important.
Once we started our cooperation, so what you were expecting from value we can bring to you and your company and your team, and how does it evolve along the time till now? Yeah,
of course. It's probably similar to what I said before, which is just bridging a gap. Again, we're good at dealing with print. We're good at creating print products, but we don't have a team that can do machine learning or deal with AI projects. And there are endless possibilities to employ AI to do that. So naturally, we needed someone to bridge that gap. And I think V-Storm was the right choice to do it. Your team has the experience to approach all these projects, which are probably quite out of their area of expertise. I mean, who knows print? And they still do a good job even with that limited information. So yeah, having the first project done, of course that was easy to convince everyone that from here on we've built a stable foundation, and we now have the minds to take it to the next step. So I would say the main assets that Vistorm brought to the table is knowledgeable people, professionals, definitely good advisors. That's incredibly important, and just guiding us on the right way to bring our ideas to life.
Can you tell more about how this advisory were helping to you and your team and maybe your management or founders of Mixam along the way, and how does it impact your decisions and project success?
I think a very good example is that in the early stages of the project, us with our limited knowledge, we were thinking to approach it in a certain way. Naturally, we didn't know what tools are available, what tools are more performant, so we were betting on a stack that we're familiar with, and it's probably not as optimized to do this. We envisioned a certain workflow, which it was a good starting point, but I think Vistorm filled in the gaps really well in there, and the power of this advice came in a way where, okay, yeah, it's great, we can do it this way, but we think it will be more robust if we use different tools, or this is probably a bit more performant or more mature, or it gets new iterations every week and so on. And of course, these were tools we were not familiar with. I think all of us never even heard of them. Not to mention, they come from a programming language that we absolutely did not have in our stack. And this advice was crucial. I feel it was very well explained. Of course, we didn't know much about any sort of validation or agentic frameworks, and it helped us grow as well. So eventually we started even using these tools ourselves internally. It was a very great lesson, I would say. And at least I myself felt that it was very well explained in terms that made sense to me. And if I needed more resources, I could always ask and get the right answer back. I think as a business, if you work with customers, you should at least take some of that experience you have with your customers and realize, well, a customer comes to you with a problem and you give them a solution. And they come to you because, well, they might lack the knowledge or the means to achieve whatever they want to achieve. So why not leave that to professionals?
How you see like the overall impact on your business operations, or maybe your company, or maybe your team, or thinking about this transformation?
It's definitely successful. It helps many users that might have a very abstract idea of what they want, especially cases where they look for a very niche type of product. I would say many traditional printers might not do in that way, or they might not call it whatever the client calls it. And of course, the power of using a language model is that you can easily identify something similar. So we see many users that come to us with a very abstract idea, and they end up with a nicely tailored product. Another strong point which we see in our statistics, the conversion rate coming from this AI agent is exceptional. Which means it provides good suggestions, standing its ground, and can be very convincing as to why you need to do that. And we see good feedback from our customers. So if we take the positive versus negative feedback, I'm thinking the rough numbers are about 92% positive, and just 8% of the responses were flagged as negative feedback. So it turns out to be quite helpful to our users. And it doesn't always need to be complex task. Some people don't really need a quote at that moment. They might just want to find a certain product, and they need to know a bit more about that and how to prepare their artwork or follow some guidelines. And the beauty of it's there 24/7. It can help you at any time. It can get you to the right product. And of course, if it's something the model can do, well, we have our full team of print specialists that know everything and can help people in the right direction. So we saw examples where users were quite impressed with the answers produced by the AI. Just recently, we had someone question if if the model is an actual AI or a human, and when it said, yeah, I'm an AI, they said, well, wow, you're terrific. You solved my issue. Which is, of course, the best type of feedback you can get.
Do you see any transformational changes on your end after the first process automation using AI agents? Or maybe mindset shift or your strategical shift?
Yeah, of course. And the short answer to that is more of this, please. Yes, it's being so successful, it gave us the confidence that from here on we can build more great things together in employing AI, and we definitely feel positive that Bistro can help us in this journey. We learned a lot ourselves, but of course we're not at a point where we can embark on this journey alone. So the future holds some very great promising things. And as always, we can build many other projects where we can use AI to assist and not replace, because that's my core idea here. And just empower these creative minds so they can stay creative and not derail and get encumbered by all the technical bits. So yeah, there's a lot more to do.
If you were speaking to another business leader or who has a great vision as you did, what kind of advice would you give them, and what would you tell them about working with a specialist partner like a Bistro?
Yeah, I would say don't be afraid to dream big, and don't be afraid to share your ideas, but it's very important to keep an open mind and listen to advice and take account of any limitations that might show up during the project proposal or when you share your ideas. Stay open-minded. You might have to deal with tools or resources that you don't have much experience with. Do your research as much as you can. You might end up in an area that's a bit outside of your comfort zone, but that's when you learn great things. And yeah, just don't be afraid to ask questions. I never felt judged or coming as an inferior sort of specialist, I would say. It's just important to stay transparent and not think that you can do things better or try to push in a certain way and say, well, we need to do things my way because that's what I want. And yeah, just absorb as much information as you can, and know when you need to ask for help and when you can do things on your own.
How would you choose, based on your experience, how would you choose this kind of partner, or who you wouldn't choose for your project?
I would definitely pick someone that can keep me grounded whenever I try to introduce any sort of scope creep. That's very important, and it happens all the time. Of course, many companies will say yes to almost everything, and then, well, will you get what you wanted deliver, or will it be just 50% of that? But yeah, I would say a good example, and that was at least my approach when we started this project. My wish was to come to at least an 80% success rate in the workflow results. And by the time we finished the project, the success rate is, I believe, over 95%. 8.4. So it definitely exceeded the expectations. At the same time, we did listen thoroughly to all the advice we've got from Vistorm, and I think that made a big impact.